So we are kicking off Tactics Week with Jose Bordalas, the current Getafe manager, and he's very I'm not calling it anti-football. It was not a bit of a clickbait, but we're talking 4-4-2. We're talking loads of fouls, no possession, and I've got loads of statistics to show you, which kind of covers a really bleak picture about the tactic, but it's absolutely fantastic. Just something different to kick off this fantastic week we have on the channel. All right, so Jose Bordalas, we're going to look at the statistics first, couple of little quotes as well for some managers, a few managers out there that are not keen on his style of play, and then we're going to transfer that, couple of average positions, etc., and then we're going to transform it into FM24, see what we've come with. I've only played 3 games, but it's enough. So these are replications. However, we've just smashed Barcelona 4-1. So, yeah, we've made a pretty good start with this 4-4-2 tactic. All right, guys, let's get into it. So, interestingly, Kike Setán, who used to be Barcelona manager, now at Real Betis, has had an issue with Bordalas to the point where they don't shake hands after games. He kind of said that this just isn't football, basically. Hansi Flick, Barcelona manager, they've struggled. I think they've drawn against Getafe a couple of months ago. Hansi Flick said, never experienced anything like this. It's like tennis with the lob. It wasn't nice to play. They're super aggressive, obviously, without the ball as well, which led to, interestingly, Getafe had played, I think, Atletico Madrid about 27 times over the last few years, and Getafe had never actually beaten them until a couple of weeks ago. It was actually last week, just before the international break, when they won 2-1, and Diego Simeone has come out and said the opposite of them. We couldn't defend well against their direct game. They played with determination, enthusiasm, and the truth is that they deserved it. So he's kind of getting the plaudits from Simeone and the negatives from the Barcelona managers. It kind of shows the appreciation of his style. And a couple of comments already on the YouTube of people said, oh, this is horrible football, etc. But I absolutely love it. I absolutely love this style because it's so different. Football is getting so robotic, so similar, really crap to watch. And you know, teams, the best teams, and apart from PSG, we would kind of admire, you know, watching these Premier League teams at the moment. Liverpool are okay to watch. Arsenal are terrible to watch. Chelsea are terrible to watch. It's really good just to see something out there. And now you're thinking 4-4-2, you're thinking anti-football, you're thinking Sean Dyche. You're thinking that word Brexit football. You're thinking Tony Pulis. However, this man does it slightly differently. Let's go and see a couple of the stats, and then it kind of builds a picture of what we're looking at. So the first thing you can see, you find them in 11th position with 10 games to go. Now, they've got one of the lowest budgets in the division. A couple of varying kind of stats, so I don't want to throw one out there, but it's definitely bottom half. They've always been sort of like one of the low end, sort of like bottom 25% in terms of salary. So you would imagine they're still punching above their weight. 28 games played, 9 wins, 9 draws, 10 defeats. So very, not inconsistent, probably consistent. And 25 goals scored, so less than 1 a game, but only 23 conceded. Which then, if you put it into the top 5 European leagues, the top, 96 clubs, poor old Southampton and Leicester, look, this is goals conceded. All right? Right at the very top, Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid, followed by, well, look at him. He's in between Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid and Napoli and Antonio Conte's Napoli, only 23 goals conceded. Once again, 4-4-2, we're starting to think about how low that line is. So what I'm going to do as well, I'm going to put some little screenshots up now of just some average positions from some of the games that they've played recently and a few wins. It just kind of shows you that they're not looking to sit behind the ball really deep and soak up pressure. What he wants to do, and it's quite a basic but a really clear message. He wants that ball as far away from his goal as possible. And they do that by pressing high and having a nice compact block. So press high at times or sit back in maybe a mid block, really compact. Then not so much on the extremes of Arrigo Sacchi's sort of like 4-4-2 where he would have a really high line and then a sort of like a low block. So it would be really compact 4-4-2. Along those lines, very aggressive without the ball, a man-to-man press without the ball, the 2 strikers, the 2 wide players pressing high at times in almost like a 4-4-2 and then trying to stop the rhythm of teams. Sorry, my cats are going mental. And if we look, here we go, if we look at their action zones as well, it kind of does show you like you would expect a team who are sitting in a low block to be in their third a lot. And as you can see, out of the 3 thirds, their action zones is 25%. 25% in their own third, Middle third, 44. Opposition third, 32. Now, that's interesting because some of their statistics in terms of possession stuff and goalkeeper distribution is getting very similar to Everton. And then if we compare it with Everton, Getafe is kind of slightly more well-oiled Everton in terms of the 29, 41 and 30, but they do like to probably press higher than what Everton are currently doing. I don't unfortunately have PPDA numbers. I can't get my hands on that at the moment, but there's some other stats that we're going to show you. So out of the top 5 leagues, the top 96 clubs in Europe, completed passes down, all the way down. Number 96, Getafe. They've done nearly 1,000 less than the 95th place Espanyol. 6,352 compared to 7,278. Where are Everton in that list? There you go. Everton, 8,672. Now, this is interesting because if you look once again, the opposition third numbers are slightly higher than Everton's, but it's kind of what they're doing out of possession. The action zones is what they're doing out of possession. So they may be still looking long, but when they have the opportunity to get up and press and get up the pitch, remember what I said, Bordalas wants to get out of that, sitting deep, allowing pressure. He really wants to stop it at source and kind of force those teams. He's more than comfortable allowing maybe a 4v4 at the back, allowing that goalkeeper to kick it and have confidence in his defenders, sometimes doing the old Tony Pulis and having 4 centre-halves in there. Interesting as well, Marc Cucurella came from Getafe and he often played a left winger, not a left back when he was at Getafe before he then moved on to Brighton. Possession-wise, look, Bayern Munich and PSG are up here with everything as you'd expect. Getafe are 85th with 42.4%, which we'd kind of expect. Actually, a little bit more than Everton, who are down there in 40.8. Nottingham Forest as well. Look at that. Wow. 93 out of 96. Nottingham Forest video coming later in the week, which would be pretty cool. And there you can see in second place out of the 96 clubs in terms of passes launched. Now, this is including goal kicks. This is from open play. There's only Nottingham Forest that have a higher launch from sort of like the goalkeeper kicking. So really interesting to see how they're, and now we're kind of building a picture with those higher average positions. If we look at a couple of pass maps as well. So this is from the game from Atletico Madrid. As you said, they kind of, I'm going to say they don't build, it's not like a traditional where you would say, you know, it looks like a 3-2-5, doesn't it? But it's not necessarily like that. They often hold the defender deep, not because they want to help with a numerical advantage and build them. It's just to give them that extra protection down one side and in defence. So as you can see, the left back is a little bit deeper. Diego Rico, who was formerly at Bournemouth. On the right-hand side, Dackerman has got a little bit higher up. And the two midfielders, interestingly, Mila and then Arambari, two sort of like veterans. Not veterans, that's a bit harsh, but two older players, experienced players, kind of working in a very old school sort of like 4-4-2. One goes, one sits. Normally Arambari is the one that goes forward a little bit further, as you can see from here. And then the strike force, they've actually got 4 forwards. Uche is actually a defensive midfielder. In the game, I've changed his role. I've used the editor to kind of being able for him to be a target forward because that's what he kind of is. He hasn't done the holding role for a long time. Can do it and will drop in there at times to help out. But a lot of the games he starts as either a shadow striker or as a centre forward. And then Alvaro Rodriguez on loan from Real Madrid. They've also had Unal, which is interesting because some of their statistics are in and around the Bournemouth, that fast, direct, kind of low possession numbers. So it's interesting that Unal has gone from a Getafe to maybe a bigger, better club, but with maybe a similar profile in Bournemouth. So really good, probably really good recruiting from Bournemouth there. They've also got players like Wamney, centre forward, a little bit different in profile, but then they've got Broja Mayoral. Good, really good attacking options so they can play that 2 up. So that is just a little bit of a recap of what we're trying to recreate. And this is what I have actually put into the game. Now, we've started the season exceptionally well. I holidayed the friendlies and I normally come back. When I do these recreations, a lot of them first time round don't work when I do the original plan. And then I go through stuff. We've obviously a lot of the time got a few reds in there, but we've maybe because of the opponents, but we have drawn against Porto and then had a really good win against Rayo Vallecano, who were in the league. So that was pretty decent. And then we've started the season extremely well. 4-1 against Osasuna, a 0-0 away at Girona, and then a 4-1 against Barcelona. All right, and before I show you the goals, one little start. Here we go. Out of the top 96 clubs, aerial duels, 1. Getafe, 1. First place, 601 duels compared to the 556 in second place Bochum, so nearly 50 more than the second place, which is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge difference. Happy to launch it, happy for the centre-halves defend, and then even if they lose the first ball, they're in and around, they're gritty, they're nasty in terms of getting that ball back extremely quickly. And also ranked first for total yellow cards, 90 yellow cards. That is one more than Las Palmas. And interesting, then a big drop to Chelsea. So Las Palmas and Getafe definitely getting in a monster. Okay, as you can see, the first game, I'm not going to show you any of the goals because they're literally worldies. Diego Rico, the left back, comes in, scores from the edge of the area. Perez is an absolute banger. Inglés is the right back, is a banger. We got a little bit lucky. We did create a lot though and had more possession, which is generally unlike Getafe. They tend to only do it over the sort of like the lower bottom kind of clubs. The Barcelona game as well. Yep, you need to ride your luck, but they did have a penalty, 59 minutes, so that took a lot of that XG up, 36% of the ball. And as well, look, we created 1.8, so we definitely deserve to get something out of the game. Wamney running down, he's now like our advanced forward, trying to get as many bodies. He wants bodies in the box. What he does want is ideally he wants the fullbacks to cross the ball, and then he wants the sort of like the wide players to narrow in a little bit, or at least be a threat at the back post. So that's where we've got Carlos Perez on that left-hand side. This is Bernat, formerly of PSG, who's kind of playing as a left winger. There is Uche, who's sort of like the shadow striker, target forward, often makes really late, deep runs into the penalty area. Lewandowski from the penalty spot. And then once again, can we get the ball in the area? Yes, we can. We cause a little bit of havoc. These are typical Getafe goals, either not from set pieces, but second balls like that is prime Getafe. Ball long, headed down, flick it on, lay it off, whatever it is, and get a ball through and score. And yeah, 1.8 created good chances there. The Girona one was a little bit different. You expect them to dominate the ball. They are the Manchester City. Mikel is one of those players, one of those managers that is linked to the Manchester City job, obviously part of the City group. So they have a particular style. But we dug out, look at that. 7 shots to them. We restricted them all that possession, one on target with an XG of 0.43. So a really good defensive performance. And as you can see, I think sometimes you can be really lucky. Match momentum, plenty of the ball, danger possession, but we restricted them to absolutely nothing. Right, let's go and see how we've put it together. So this tactic, guys, is available for all the Patreons. I'm going to go through all the player roles, instructions now, and a couple of things that you might want to do out of possession with the opposition instructions. At the same time, if you want to support the channel, especially this week with the Tactics Week, there's going to be tactic files all ready for you right now for today's video down in the description if you want to check out the Patreon. Muchly appreciate if you do. If not, don't worry. Let's go and break it down piece by piece. So, 4-4-2, goalkeeper, Soria, goalkeeper on defend, is there anything you could potentially change in there? Maybe even take fewer risks could be one. That would maybe even make that pass go a little bit longer. So I will put that in the current one. Inglés' fullback on support, no play instruction. We don't want them to sit too deep. We don't want them to hold their line. He does want them to get crosses in. So with Inglés, you could have cross more often. And at the same time as well, cross from deep. That would then allow him to get, maybe not get forward, but if you have cross from the byline, if you're crossing from deep, that means his position is maybe going to be a little bit deeper. We've got the winger in front, but we do want Inglés getting on the ball, crosses in, looking for those second balls. Remember what I said, he wants the fullbacks to cross. He wants the wide players to sort of get in amongst the box and make it at least 4 players with a 5 with the central midfielder joining in, getting into the penalty area. Duarte and Alderete are the most regular players. For them, just normal central defenders on defend. If you want to go old school and go no nonsense, you can do, but central defender on defend is fine. And then Rico on the same side. Once again, cross more often, cross from deep, put that one in, and you're good to go. Right-hand side, Carles. I've decided to go down the route of marking specific position, and I've got him marking the left back. What we want to try and encourage is that 4-4-2 press, so then they have to go long, and then we win those aerial duels with the ball going long. So Carlos Perez, the right defensive winger on support. I've tried to do it a little bit balanced in terms of not having both of them as super high. So I thought we'll check out defensive winger, and it does work actually really well in the game. This is an interesting one. The Mia and Arambari kind of partnership. It's box to box. It's ball winners. It's that typical 6 and 8 combo. Carolero, central midfielders on a support. You could change these. I've gone support because not really does one of them just sit. I think we don't have this 6 like an anchor. That's why I've got them in there. And then with that, it'll encourage us to maybe go press their 8s rather than sitting really deep. So we've got Adam Barry, ball-winning midfielder on support, box-to-box midfielder for Mia. You could maybe change that to a Carolero. The touch match from Adam Barry, very much all over the place. Let's have a look at Mia's very quickly. Compare it is always a good tool as well. Interestingly, some of his profile is linked to Scott McTominay, so that out-and-out number 8. And then Mia is most likely in terms of his statistics from the season compared to Matthijs Jensen of Brentford, so that very industrial, hard-working midfielder. And then if we look at his touch map for the season, once again, just a number 8, getting absolutely everywhere. So you could say, really, one of them could be a Carolero. If you want to go down that route, changing one of those to a Carolero, you could with a box. You're kind of free to make it up in there with what you have, maybe depending on your profile. I wouldn't have like the central midfielders on attack or any kind of, I wouldn't have deep line playmakers in there. It's a very industrial kind of 2/8s, 2/6s, whatever you want to call it. And on the left-hand side, we've got Bernat, mark-specific position, which we've got as the right back because we want to try and encourage that 4-2-4 press when we can. You could probably put cross from deep on. I haven't because we've got the fullbacks doing it, but if you wanted to do that, you could. And then the front boys, Uche, who I did edit in the in-game editor just so we could get these 2 roles. So it would be a little bit more comfortable at doing it. You can see by his profile, look, I haven't changed any of his attributes. So he is pretty decent. He's not bad. He's finishing great, but he's got a profile to probably be a good centre forward. He's been a really good signing for them. Look where he's come from as well. Absolutely nowhere. Potentially may go on to bigger things, Uche, at that age. He's only 21 years old. Someone down the line may look at picking him up. And then the other one, advanced forward. A lot of the strikers as well have not played that many games. Uche has, but then between Wamni, Boya, and Alvaro Rodriguez, very much a rotation, probably depending on the profile of the opposition. So mentality, balanced. I've gone for balance because I'm just wanting the players to play to their natural roles. We're not looking at making massive possession numbers, but at the same time, we're not deliberately allowing the team to have the ball. We kind of want to press. So we've gone balanced. Fairly narrow. That's mainly done because it keeps us nice and compact in possession, so less chance of a counter, but then also it does have a little bit of an add-on to your out of possession stuff in terms of that transition. If you have wide, then your team's going to be open more to counter-attack, so it's we're doing the fairly narrow to help us with our out of possession stuff. Much more direct, higher tempo, time wasting sometimes, which goes up to more often depending on the team. Hit crosses early, obviously. Mix the crosses as well. Play for set pieces. Be more disciplined. In transition, I have left all that off. There's not an over-reliance on counter-pressing. The defensive actions and stuff are not absolutely massive. They're not super aggressive in terms of pressing. Recoveries as well is actually really low compared to like the best team in Europe. Top 5 leagues is Bournemouth. And I think Getafe were down in 85th. So we're not necessarily looking at getting that ball back instantly. Slow the pace down from the goalkeeper. And we're going to distribute it to the target forward. Out of possession, mid-block, but with a high line. I've done that so we could get that really compact. There was a little screenshot that I showed you at the start. Trying to recreate that is a little bit tricky, so that's the only way around it. And yeah, high line, it may be at times as well. You could drop into a standard and then a low block, but that for now should be enough. It doesn't overly press the back line and stuff like that. Prevent shot distribution is an interesting one. The goalkeeper, if you've got your press right with your 2 strikers and defenders, the goalkeeper will tend to go long anyway. He does want the goalkeeper to punt it. So I suppose as well, you could probably tick that on for a little bit of overkill. Get stuck in. We saw those yellow card stats. And then trap outside. Very much old school. Allow the ball to go out to the side. Squeeze across. Get the fullback pressed up against the winger. Get the right winger. If he's on the left, if he's on the right-hand side, get our right winger pressing the fullback. Get the strikers shuffled across. Make them either go back to the goalie or going long, and that's a good way of doing it. I said the opposition instructions, you could do like harder tackling, tighter marking, yes, maybe on the 8s, maybe get those right backs tighter, the full backs potentially, or even all the defenders. That might just increase how close our 2 wingers get to their fullbacks in terms of those player roles that we did in terms of the player instructions, marking the 2 fullbacks. And obviously then you'd see the 2 centre-halves getting man-marked by our 2 strikers as well. Just a little bit of overkill with that. Trigger press is the two fullbacks. There you go. And then tackling, you know, it could be just that hard, basically. There you go. I would do as well, actually, on the goalkeeper, never press the... Oh, that's the wrong one. On the goalkeeper, I would do never as well, because the idea is the ball goes back to the goalie. The striker goes, then they can kind of play around him. So, yeah, I would maybe leave that on, allow the goalkeeper to have time, and potentially if there's no pass on, he'll then go long. All right, guys, that is it. Jose Bordalas, Getafe.